Yeah, that's right. Nick Dutch back on the camera again one more time. Hi there, how the heck's it going? Now, I just popped into something called E-Academy, which is a blog forum type thing which I'm a member of. And someone had posted a video there, and it was a video which had some ideas in it which I kind of like had a few issues with. I kind of like listened to the first minute or two of it, and then my blood pressure went through the roof. So what I thought I'd do is I'd share with you this particular video and what I think about it. Now, I'm not the biggest expert in the whole wide world on certain subjects, as I'm sure you can probably understand, but I know a little bit here and there. So let's see how far I go with what they're talking about. It says here, Declaration Entertainment. The bad science and the bad policy of Obama's global warming agenda. So,
the assumption that everything humans do necessarily hurts the environment is a powerfully seductive belief for many.
Okay, everything that humans do, alright, does that include like recycling, reforestation, conservation?
Westerners who harbor angst over the myriad and amazing ways humans have found to rearrange the raw materials of the earth to suit our needs. Our cars and planes and machines and gadgets and conveniences are all very nice, but they also complicate our lives.
How? We have labor-saving devices. They don't complicate our lives. I can put my washing into a washing machine and it will take away the complexity for me.
We sometimes yearn for simpler times, a bygone era when life was less hurried.
Are they really trying to say that all of the environmental movements is just about trying to simplify life? Is it just like some kind of like poetic, romantic movements? No, we're dealing with hard and fast real issues here.
Yet that way of life has not been relegated to the dustbin of history. It is still lived by more than 1 billion people on the earth today who have no electricity, no refrigeration, no clean water, and who must gather wood and animal dung to use for heating and cooking.
So what he's trying to do is like surreptitiously say there is that the only way you can live in a green, environmentally friendly way is to live in the third world, or indeed have your standard of life move down to a third world level. It's very, it's very subtle psychology there, and I hate it. And the reason that I hate it is because I don't think it's true. I think that with all the technological advances that we have in the Western world, we can use our Western technology to be able to address climatic problems, such as, solar energy, wind power, all these other little things that we can start to use. Also algae, creating the equivalent of fossil fuels from forms of like vegetable oil, and starting to learn how to use that, using wood pellets from reclaimed wood, and use that as if we were using it like coal. There's lots of different ways we can do things in the Western world without having to go down to this oh my god level. So you can already tell that this particular video is coming out with this like hard Republican stroke Tea Party attitude of we must be afraid of environmentalism, because otherwise we'll all be ending up living basically in third world conditions, which is of course a complete and utter crock of rubbish.
For these people, and for the vast majority of the human beings that have ever lived, life on this planet has been dirty, smelly, difficult, and short.
Dirty, smelly, and difficult are the three things that they've mentioned there. Life is difficult anyway, right? And life isn't quite as smelly or dirty because we have we can wash and we can use chemicals to clean ourselves, such as soap, which is natural. And as far as things being short, yeah, human life has been extended predominantly thanks to medication, vaccines and all the rest of that. We have the ability to use these things.
So what has raised people out of this mean and meager way of life?
Well, obviously there is energy and that's a part of it, but there's also sanitation, there's also medication, there's also vaccination, there's also birth control, there's also good economy, there's also education. In fact, there's lots of different things. I wonder which particular aspect of the entire web of different factors this particular video is going to focus on.
Energy.
Energy. I really hadn't guessed.
In fact, everything humans do requires energy.
Yeah. Absolutely. Making a cup of tea, that requires energy. Writing something, does that require energy? some, not all necessarily all that much, but essentially all human beings, require energy.
Communication, transportation, medicine, even growing food. And the primary sources of that energy today are carbon-based fossil fuels.
Yeah, but you're also saying that everything that we do relies upon carbon-based fossil fuels, which, as I mentioned before, would that also include reforestation, which will act as a carbon sink, drawing the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. Would that also include the construction of algae farms, so that you can take the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and turn it into a usable fuel, a renewable source? And surely that is, because it's carbon negative or carbon neutral, that's also quite a positive thing to do.
The trouble is that while our lives have been improving, our atmosphere has also been getting warmer.
Because we've been screwing it up.
The obvious question is, why?
Because we've been screwing it up.
Many scientists claim that the warming is the result of our use of fossil fuels.
You don't say.
In the case of climate change hysteria...
I'm sorry? Climate change hysteria. Like I'm really running around naked, screaming and shouting, "Oh my god, we're all gonna die! Oh my god, we're all gonna die! Oh my god, we're all gonna die!" No, this is not hysteria. This is objectively looking at the facts and trying to make some rational decisions based upon what we're seeing. Okay? And it's not just a question of we shouldn't be burning fossil fuels. We're also running out of fossil fuels. And there are also resource wars which are happening as a result of competition for fossil fuels. So maybe there are some either alternative or complementary methods which we could actually deploy, which would help to assist the environment and also to assist the way in which, we as a species are getting on with each other. It's more complex than just a question of we have to burn more fossil fuels because that'll solve all our problems.
The argument goes something like this.
I'm all ears.
Burning of fossil fuels produces carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
A greenhouse gas.
Yeah.
Greenhouse components in the atmosphere reduce the rate at which the Earth cools to outer space through infrared radiation.
Yeah.
Now we've been releasing more and more carbon dioxide, and the atmosphere has been getting warmer and warmer.
Yeah, that's because all of the carbon dioxide has been stored in the form of fossil fuels, which is down deep within the Earth itself. It's like thousands or millions of years worth of accumulated carbon deposits, which have been taken out of the atmosphere by essentially the organic processes of life, okay? And we're releasing it, all these thousands, millions of years worth of carbon energy into the atmosphere at a great rate, which is much faster than nature could actually bring it back into the earth or sequester basically the carbon dioxide that we're all producing. So it's not just a question of us using this particular fuel, it's a question of the quantity of carbon dioxide that we're producing is not really being taken back by a natural process. And as a result of that, it is therefore accumulating within our environment, okay? The Earth cannot deal with the quantity that we are releasing in order to be able to operate things like that thing up there, the electric lights, this particular electric camera and the batteries in it, the computer, the internet, and even things within my little bubble of life, okay? This is a lot of energy expenditure, although it's greatly reduced. That's an energy-saving light bulb up there. This camera is, I assume, relatively energy efficient. It has a very small battery inside it. I'm trying to cut down the quantity of time I spend with the computer turned on. I'm using energy-efficient kettles and all kinds of other stuff. And yes, I'm building solar panels. So essentially, I'm trying to do something to moderate what I'm personally, my own carbon footprint.
The answer must be that the two events are related.
Yes, they are related. Sorry, but they are.
But of course, correlation does not always mean causation.
Yeah, you can't use the correlation-causation fallacy in a situation like this in which the facts are in fact very well known and very well documented. It's actually, a logical fallacy to apply that logical fallacy to this particular situation, taking into account the information that we've got.
Are there alternative explanations for recent warming that would relegate the impact of humans to the level of noise?
Relegate the impact of humans to the level of noise. Have you actually seen one of those aerial photographs of, let's say, the North American continent and the European continent and Australia at night, and the quantity of lights, just the lights that we're using, making these continents glow in the dead of the night? the quantity of power we're using is incredible. And yes, a lot of it is coming from carbon-based fuels. Alright, but essentially this is not a question of just noise. How many billions of people are there in the world now? Alright, these are creatures who have a big impact. And nature has not yet found a way of dealing with the quantity of impact that we are producing through releasing all of this thousands or millions of years worth of carbon deposits into the environment very rapidly over just the past 100 or so years.
Yes, there are.
No, there aren't.
Have scientists adequately ruled out these other possible explanations
Yes.
for recent warming? No, they have not.
Out and out lie. Sorry.
Before global warming became the most popular climate research topic, most of the evidence that had been published over the years suggested that periods of natural global warming and cooling are the rule, not the exception.
Okay, so they're the rule, not the exception, but considering the quantity of carbon dioxide that we're producing and the fact that nature cannot actually deal with it, makes me feel that this particular period of warming is in fact slightly different to a slight change in the climate.
A number of indirect measures of past temperature, so-called temperature proxies, suggest that it might well have been warmer during some decades around 1000 AD, during the medieval warm period.
The medieval warm period was a localized weather phenomena and was not a global climate phenomena. So essentially, this is a lie to suggest that there is some connection between this medieval warm period and global temperatures. It is an out-and-out lie and a misrepresentation of the facts.
Than it has been recently. And since most of that warming, including retreating glaciers at the end of the Little Ice Age, occurred well before fossil fuel use could be blamed, there are indications that there are natural climate variations at work which are as yet not well understood.
Or are indeed thoroughly misrepresented by the person who's created this video.
While it is true that modern science has ruled out the most obvious direct influences on the climate system, like changes in sunlight intensity or ozone depletion, scientists have essentially ignored natural indirect sources of climate change generated by the climate system itself. The reason why is that we have not sufficiently detailed and accurate global observations of the climate system over a long enough period of time to understand the role of Mother Nature in causing climate change.
So, essentially, that means all of the geological records which point to different weather, different plant species actually evolving for different locations over an extended period of time, that's all like not long enough. You know, going back to the time of the dinosaurs, that's like prior to humankind actually existing, that's not a long enough period of time. The ice cores that go back to the time of the woolly mammoths, okay, that isn't long enough for you to be able to say that, you know, we have the right quantity of information. Alright, so essentially going back to prehistory, pre-humanity, when like the time even before humans were like little shrew-like creatures scurrying around like the dying bodies of the dinosaurs shortly after the meteor impact. That's not long enough for you. Alright, no, obviously you want to go back to prior to the actual creation of the planet itself, or some crazy time frame like that, obviously.
You cannot study that which you do not have the data to study.
We have the data.
For instance, the most recent period of warming that started in the late 1970s might have been mostly caused by a 1 or 2% decrease in global average cloudiness.
1 or 2% decrease in local average cloudiness. Well, have you taken into account global dimming, on the other hand? Because the quantity of sunlight that's actually reaching the surface of the Earth has gone down by, 30% in some parts of the world over the past 100 years. So essentially, a 1 or 2% change in the quantity of cloudiness would have little or no impact upon the total quantity of temperature increase on the face of the planet. Okay, there's less sunlight hitting the ground, and the temperature is rising. And this 1 or 2% of cloudiness is just like a distraction. It's wrong to even mention it.
Due to a natural internal climate cycle. Sufficiently accurate global satellite data to document such a change, though, has only existed for about the last 10 years.
Yeah, for the last 10 years. We have the ice cores and we have the geology, which goes back millennia. Alright, thousands and thousands and thousands of years, possibly even millions of years, to the time of the dinosaurs. We know what was happening in the world at that time as a result of science. We do not need a satellite to be flying around the planet during the time of the dinosaurs to be able to work out what the climate was like during the time of the dinosaurs, okay?
Now, if it does turn out that past warming is mostly natural in origin, then it takes a much stronger
Past warming. What do you mean by past warming?
push to cause warming than just an increase in CO2 levels.
Yeah, but it's also the quantity of warming and the scale of the warming, which has never been done at all in the whole of human history until such times like the Industrial Revolution occurs. We start burning coal, we start burning, oil, petrol, all the rest of it in large quantities, thus releasing tons and tons and tons of like aerosols and sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide all into the atmosphere very rapidly. Right? It's a question of speed and quantity over a period of time. That's like natural variations. Bing! That's us, like now, okay? You get the drift there?
Which indicates a robust, insensitive climate system.
No.
In that case, the natural warming can be expected to end at some point, and little additional warming from our greenhouse gas emissions would then be expected later.
Can be expected. Okay, remember what he said earlier on, namely we've only had the satellite technology over the past 10 years to be able to say either way. So in accordance with his reasoning, he hasn't got enough information to be able to say either way about whether the temperature is going to go up or down, and there he is making an unproven claim that the temperature is going to go down, or is expected to go down on the basis of this like robust system, which goes completely contrary to, of course, the entire geological record, and so on and so forth. So essentially he's talking complete and utter rot.
Since it has not warmed in the past 10 years, as most scientists expected it would,
actually it has.
This is evidence that scientists have overestimated the role of carbon dioxide in climate change.
Lies.
The fact is, scientists and politicians
The fact is?
alike have been too quick to assume causation when it comes to climate change.
No. There's scientific papers out there. It's not a question of assumptions. It's not a question of correlation. Alright, there's much more scientific work that's gone into this. You're lying.
Like ancient tribes of people who made sacrifices to the gods of nature, modern societies are too easily convinced that they are the ones responsible for weather changes, and that they can somehow atone for their environmental sins through changes in behavior.
Oh, God. Grow up. Oh, crikey.
And this happens to be very convenient for politicians and profiteers who are
Politicians and profiteers, unlike, of course, the oil companies, the coal companies, the gas companies. Oh, no, they're not profiteers, are they? No, of course not.
intent on regulating
Let alone the Republicans and extreme conservatives and the Tea Partyers. Oh, no.
global energy use for their own power and financial gain.
So you're blaming the greedy politicians and not the greedy oil giants.
If global warming is in fact man-made, and if the dire predictions of Al Gore and his friends are to be believed,
Well, Al Gore exaggerated a little, but essentially he was important in portraying a message and in the history of the debate. So I don't think you can completely rule him out. But on the other hand, he did exaggerate a little.
and all of this warming is indeed a threat to life as we know it,
Yeah, it's a threat to life, not necessarily life as we know it. We're still going to be able to keep our civilization going for maybe 100 years. But things are going to start to get a bit more difficult, probably even in my lifetime, okay? Big time.
then what we really need are drastic reductions in our production of carbon dioxide in the coming decades. Say
Yes,
at least 50% reductions by 2050.
that will be good.
But where will those reductions come from? Solar and wind are two diffuse and intermittent forms of energy.
Yeah, solar and wind might be diffuse and intermittent unless, of course, you've got a grid which is capable of actually distributing the electrical energy across a large enough surface area. So let's say you had the whole of the North American continent, okay, and there were lots of little solar and wind plants all over the place, and they could all share their energy. You would probably end up with a much more consistent flow of electrical energy which could then be used by houses all over the nation. It's not a question of just having one little wind farm or one little solar panel. Okay, you need to have an entire grid. You can have them all interconnected. You will then have consistent power, no worries, and that's 365. 24/7. Doesn't matter. It depends on how you design the architecture. If you're not taking that into account, you're not good enough to be able to participate in the debate about whether solar and wind should be viable.
Requiring huge tracts of land to generate the same amount of energy as a single coal-fired or nuclear power plant.
No, you could use a portion of the Nevada desert to be able to power the whole of the United States of America, and that's only a small proportion of it, and that's just using photovoltaics.
Hydroelectric power is attractive since it has essentially no greenhouse gas emissions. Environmental concerns, though, are not only blocking the construction of new hydro dams, they are leading to the removal of some of the existing ones.
Yeah, and that's because of biodiversity, which is important for the survival of the human species.
Now, nuclear power is a particularly compact form of stored energy, but the disposal of spent fuel and safety concerns continue to prevent widespread acceptance of nuclear energy.
Yeah, nuclear is controversial, but it will make a very useful stopgap over the next 100 years whilst we're working out how to improve the solar, wind, tide, and all the rest of that grid.
Especially in the United States. The bottom line is this: not only is green energy still relatively expensive, it cannot meet a substantial fraction of our energy needs.
Well, depends upon how you use your energy, doesn't it? What you use your energy for, where you get it from, and how you use it in your home. And there's ways of cutting down your energy expenditure so that you can basically make life a little easier. I mean, you need to have a wide variety of different technologies to be able to help you do what you have to do, including something like biodiesel, including something like wood pellets for your heating and your hot water. That's if you're not using solar hot water. It's a question of a combination of different technologies. You don't just turn around and say, well, solar and wind isn't quite good enough for you. Alright, we are humans, we can be malleable and plastic, and we can try and do different things to create different systems and structures and combinations of different technologies for different geographical climate types and weather conditions. We can do it, okay? It's not a question of solar and wind is crap, because that's just bullshit.
In total, solar, wind, hydro, and nuclear provide less than 15% of all the energy used in the United States.
At the moment.
Which means that the huge sums of extra money the government takes from you to spend on these systems is almost all paying for no measurable gain.
Well, no, it's also research and development and also improvement of the technology and also working out ways of deploying this particular stuff. So the measurable gain is going to come. But it's going to come to protect the entire species, okay? So it's not a question of I'm spending out this proportion of my tax revenue, therefore what am I going to get back like today? It's a question of I'm spending this out of my tax revenue so that the lives of innocent people can be saved, which is a bigger issue than just thinking about what am I going to get? I give you $5, what do I get back, huh? Come on, give me, alright? Stop being so,
Meanwhile, carbon taxes, or the hidden carbon tax that is known as cap and trade, only hurt consumers by taking more and more money out of your pocket.
Which can then be reinvested in solar and wind research as also biotechnology. Are you aware that by the year 2020, literally 20% of all of China's energy requirements will be from renewables? And a lot of the top-notch properties in China have a biodigester in the garden to be able to create methane from human and animal waste, and also from waste food from the kitchen. Alright, they're using this technology now to make gas. They can heat their homes 20% by 2020. And what is your country doing? What is Britain doing? What is Europe doing? What is Australia doing? Okay, we've got to try and increase this. Use all these technologies. Get them all together. We can do it.
They will destroy wealth, increase the price of virtually everything, drive industries overseas where they can pollute even more, and substantially grow.
Sorry, drive industries overseas where they can pollute even more, such as China, which is probably currently the leader in green technology and beating the crap out of America at the moment.
Government and greatly restrict personal freedoms.
Greatly restrict personal freedoms. Oh, fear. Oh, paranoia. So you're going on about like this like global warming scare thing, and then you're terrifying people in terms of, oh, your freedoms will be taken away from you, taken away from you, your freedoms will be taken away from you. Oh, be afraid, be afraid. Oh, what a heap of rubbish. You'll end up having more freedoms because you have more energy being produced at a lower expense to society and to the environment. Biodiversity can improve because there'll be less toxins and less pollutions going out there. And we as a species will not be being responsible for the greatest mass extinction on the face of the planet throughout the whole of history itself.
Which leaves us with only one immediate and effective way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions: to simply cease all economic activity, all
Bullshit.
commerce in the world.
That is simply not true, because it's from economic activity and from commerce that we can actually create a low carbon economy and start building things up for the future. That's why there are people who are getting involved in turbine developments, research developments, manufacture, production, distribution, okay, through the economy. It's using this sort of like evil force to be able to generate power which we can then use. Of course, wind turbines is only one particular example, but there's lots of other ones out there. I mean, take into account myself, me making my own solar panels from reclaimed photovoltaic cells. Alright, this is me using the economy. The fact I'm working in the economy, I'm actually doing work in the economy. Using my money so that I can then create something which can save me money and also to help save the rest of the world bit by bit. Just like little drops all together eventually can make a bucket of water, if you get my drift. But without each and every single one of those drops, you wouldn't have the full bucket of water. We got to carry on putting those drips into the bucket.
To return to that mean and meager state from which carbon-based energy delivered us in the first place.
No, we don't have to return to third world living in order to deal with the carbon issue. We really don't have to do that. There's other ways in which we can do it to generate the food security, to generate the transport network security, to provide people with the freedom to be able to drive cars. Okay, there'll be electric cars or there'll be hydrogen cars, but we can have them and we can do them, or there'll be like biodiesel cars. There's ways around the problem, and we can find these ways.
Dirty, smelly, difficult, and short lives.
Bullshit. Bullshit. I mean, complete and utter fear-mongering, scaremongering rubbish. This is like journalism at its worst. It's as if to say, we got to carry on burning coal or you're going to die. That's basically the message here. Burn coal or die. It's that simple. But the fact that like there's various counties here in my country who are putting up like wind turbines to try and generate more power within a whole year, so that they can reduce the quantity of extra effort which is being taken out of the grid. There's a place not too far down from where I'm living which is actually taking a sewage works and turning that into a gas production plant to make methane to go into the gas grid. Alright, we're doing this now, using modern technology in the here and now, slowly and surely building it up, alright, without having our lives shortened, alright, without having to stop washing or whatever it is. The changes are occurring and we have to encourage these things, using the economy, using our desires to create new industries, new businesses. So we don't have to have shortened lives, smelly lives, dirty lives, whatever you want to call it. Or to return to third world living. It's not going to happen that way. And you don't have to be afraid. Relax.
So what is the answer? If there is even an actual human-caused climate problem?
There is. Sorry, there is.
Which as of yet remains mostly conjecture.
Rubbish.
Well, to the extent that it actually exists, anthropogenic global warming is a slow process.
Incorrect.
Even if we assume that the current predictions of a sensitive climate system are correct, the average future warming rate is expected to be little more than 0.02 of a degree Celsius per year.
Incorrect.
So why is it that there is such a strong push to act now?
Because we're reaching the crunch point when essentially it was a 2 degree Celsius rise globally, and we're almost there. Okay, so if we can just reduce the speed of temperature increase globally, then we got more of a chance for the future.
Why do politicians keep claiming we have only a few years left to save ourselves?
Because it's a fact.
Or that the latest UN meeting is, once again, our last chance to avert global disaster?
Because it's true.
Instead, why not simply allow time and the efficient forces of supply and demand, human ingenuity?
The efficient forces of supply and demand, which from what you're saying is carry on burning coal and petrol. That's it. That's what you're saying.
And the power of the free market to innovate technological alternatives.
That's what I've been saying, and we don't have to live a smelly, dirty, short life.
Far beyond those we have
But we've got to do it quicker.
created. And if it turns out that the climate system is in fact robust and insensitive,
which it isn't,
then destroying our engine of wealth creation and reducing civilization back to its pre-industrial roots will have been for nothing.
Pre-industrial roots. Is that what you think is actually going to happen to us? Certainly not. We're creating change now because we're under pressure to. And it's not a question of, oh, we've all got to, live in houses made of dung. Alright, my house is not made of dung, okay? This table is not made of dung. This computer is not made out of dung. There are no millions of blue bottles around my keyboard because it's all made out of little pieces of rubbish. Okay, this is like a proper keyboard, a proper monitor, proper computer, and it's all part of the whole system, okay? Just accept it. But the innovations and the changes have to happen now because we are running out of time, yes, big time. Right. So, in synopsis, there appears to be this movement to terrify people away from green ideas and green ingenuity, primarily for the purposes of encouraging the burning of oil, the mining of coal, and essentially the progression towards destroying the world. This is not a good movement. It is using factual inaccuracies. It is misrepresenting science. It is misrepresenting politics. And it is essentially destroying the debate, because it's taking the debate into the level of yellow journalism. And I have no respect for this particular variety of broadcast at all whatsoever. We all have to do something about the problem. We have to do something about the problem now because we are running out of time. That is a fact. We have to accept it. We do not have to go back to third world living. We will find a way.